But before we get into anything Raw related, Dynamite related, we got to talk about the biggest news of the week coming out of Wednesday. You were actually the one that broke the news to me, Mr. Marceau, 10 minutes after news broke from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. Owens actually discussed the news himself on a podcast today, which I'll talk about in a moment. But Kevin Owens re-signing with WWE for at least a few more years. There was a lot of talk of him leaving. Contract was up January 31st. And now he's just extended it. He said in said interview that his contract still expires January 31st, just not 2022. So that tells me he just signed like a 2 or 3 year extension. Reportedly, again, you got to take it with a grain of salt, Meltzer had noted on the Wrestling Observer radio show, I think last night, that it was for $2 to $3 million. I don't know if that was speculation or if that was like an actual report that he had heard. I don't know. That sounds ridiculous, but I mean, if they really wanted to keep the guy, they had the funds to do it, regardless of what they say about budget cuts. So, I mean, I guess I could see that, but Kevin Owens sticking around in WWE, quite the shocker to close out the year, and we still got a couple weeks left, but I think we were all under the impression that he was on his way out based on how he was booked, based on, who's in AEW, and if he would or would not have fit over there. Talk about your initial reaction, Mr. Marceau, to finding out that Kevin Owens is still going to be with WWE beyond 2022.
I was shocked. I mean, I'm a Kevin Owens guy, but I mean, I feel like just the way that he was booked, like beginning of the year. I mean, lately it's been better, but I feel like the beginning of the year, and I feel like every year he has been. I think he has been traded from Raw to SmackDown. So it just seemed like every year, like they just kind of like, oh, we don't really know the Kevin Owens, so we'll just switch shows with him. But I mean, since his big Universal Championship win, I don't know, was that almost 5 years ago? I mean, he really hasn't done, like, he's won some stuff. I mean, it's not like he's been terribly booked, but I mean, I feel like he should be probably a higher priority. But so like when the news was that his contract was coming up, I mean, I think we all thought he was leaving. I mean, obviously he's friends with the Bucks and stuff. He was in Ring of Honor, like his majority of his indie career in PWG. So like obviously he knows all those guys, and I don't know, it just seemed like that was the direction he was going with. But I mean, I can see why he'd stay. I mean, now he's kind of a focal point. I mean, if they're giving him the money that's reported, I doubt they're just going to let him do nothing. So maybe that was definitely another help. And I don't know. I feel like he would succeed in AEW, but I just also think he would kind of be like another stooge in another group. Like, yeah, he'd go be with the Young Bucks. So what are you going to replace Adam Cole with him? And then he'd be with fucking Brandon Cutlet and Nakazawa? Like, who cares? So Kenny will eventually come back too, so then like he'd just be another guy. I mean, I think he'd be able to work with, like, I think he'd do well, but I just feel like there are a lot of people that are kind of just like in the mix, and I mean, I think that's what he'd be. And right now, technically on Raw, he's like in the main event scene, so I don't think he'd get there. I don't know if he'd ever get there in that company, but I don't know. I think it's a good for him. I mean, he has been there. I don't know the last 7-8 years. So like he's made a name for himself. That's how he kind of got his national name, being on WWE TV. Like he did get pretty pushed through the developmental system, probably one of the quickest that we had seen at that point through anyone that went through the Indies. I mean, he was on Raw probably 6 months after he came on NXT TV. So beating John Cena, obviously he didn't win the feud, but I mean, he beat John Cena, so that's good as well. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, he's it just, I feel like WWE, it's just like, it is what it is. Like the biggest company. He's on the biggest platform. Yeah, like he go AEW, have fun, but like I think he'll make more money in WWE and can cement. If he really needed to, I think he could fall back on AEW. But like right now, being in WWE seems like it works best for him.
Well, yeah, fall back in AEW in the sense that, in my next question for you, in that if he gets cut, because I had read the report as there is a no-cut clause. There's not, though. I had misread the report. There actually is no cut clause. I don't know what contract does. I think I had heard at one point, whether it was from Meltzer or Sean Ross Sapp, I forgot where I had heard it from. This was a while ago. That some contracts did have a no-cut clause. I would assume Randy Orton's does, maybe AJ Styles. I'm not sure who else in the company. I mean, obviously Roman Reigns, I guess, but beyond them, I'm not sure who else would have it worked into their deals. Maybe Rollins, maybe depending on when he re-signed. I don't know when his contract is up, but I don't know. It's interesting. I could totally see a case, though. I said the same thing with Adam Cole, though Owens is a bigger star because he's been in the main roster a lot longer, obviously. Could you see a situation where, I mean, if $2 to $3 million is accurate, that is just unbelievable. I mean, I love Kevin Owens, but we hear some of these figures and no one makes remotely close to that aside from like Brock and Roman. So that just sounds crazy. Could you see a case where they let him go in the next year? I mean, I don't even think Braun Strowman was making that much, dude, and they let him go. And Braun was a bigger focal point on these shows than Kevin Owens was. Could you see a situation where they might let him go before his contract's up and he could always go to AEW then? I mean, honestly, that's how I see this playing out. I hate to be non-optimistic here, but I feel like that's realistic.
I mean, I think it is realistic, but I don't know. I just feel like I think now I don't know if they've realized. I think now they've kind of started to realize it. Like, if they really, 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 really wanted him to actually do something with them, I feel like they're going to, at this point, extend their olive. Like, they're going to extend for him. I feel like other people, like Adam Cole, like, maybe they really wanted him, but, like, at the end of the day, they really wanted him, they would throw, like, as much money as they can there. I mean, they're a billion-dollar company.
Yep.
I feel like now, more than ever, I feel like if they just didn't want you, they would just let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that's what they've done with a lot of people. I mean, I think, did they want Daniel Bryan? Yeah, but I mean, what was the offer? I mean, if they really, 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 really wanted Daniel Bryan, I think they would have fucking thrown as much. I mean, his fucking father-in-law works there, so like, I feel like they would have done, like, they probably didn't like have the demands that he wanted and stuff like that. So like, there's other things, but I feel like at this point, if they don't want you, they've clearly just starting to let people go. If they want you, I guess they'll extend the olive branch. But like I said, next month he could be on main event, so who knows? Yeah. But I mean, I also think there's a chance he could win the WWE Championship as well. So it is what it is. But I think at this point they've realized if they want someone, they're going to probably invest in that person. Everyone else, as we've seen the last year, they say quote unquote budget cuts, which I mean, companies making more money than they've ever made. But yeah. I think if they didn't want you, they just let you go, like those other people that they started letting go.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I mean, I think you make a great point as far as if they really, 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 really wanted you, then they'll offer you enough money to stay. I mean, with Adam Cole, did they think he was worth $2 to $3 million? Probably not. I mean, whether he is or not is debatable, I guess, but they didn't. I think that would have been incredibly dumb for someone who hasn't even made the main roster yet. As big of a star as Adam Cole is, and as much as I like Adam Cole, is Owens even worth that much? I don't know. My question is, though, you mentioned if they really want to keep someone, they will offer them what they want to keep them if they really wanted to keep them. Bryan, same thing. I feel like Bryan probably would have stayed. He's admitted to staying, but I feel like and everyone's different. Everyone wants different things. Everyone has different demands. I mean, he wanted to wrestle in Japan. I think WWE was actually going to let him do that. He has said that in interviews. Bryan's a different cat than Kevin Owens, though. He had been there a lot longer than Kevin Owens. He's done everything there is to do in WWE. I guess Owens has too, but you know, I mean, he's already been world champion multiple times. Owens can always climb back up that ladder, maybe. I could see him maybe doing that at some point. Bryan's a little bit different, but with Owens, though, with the demands that they made or he made to stay, blah, 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 and the amount of money they're offering him, I'm not even blaming him for his decision. I mean, if the guy's making that much amount of money for his family, I mean, that's incredible and more power to him. I mean, the guy's not stupid for doing that, I don't think. And it's not like with Adam Cole, I feel like Adam Cole would have been dumb to go, in my opinion, just because he's so young and the prime years of his career are like right now. So it was a crucial decision whether he stays or goes. And I think he made the right decision by not staying in WWE. Owens' prime years are probably over. He's probably inching towards closer to the end of his career than the beginning. I mean, he's 37 years old. So at this point, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it would have been cool to see him in AEW, but not everyone can go there. But back to my original point, though. With the amount of money that they're offering him, if they really, really, really wanted to keep him, then they will make a way to, they will find a way to do that. Apparently, they made overtures and told him personally, listen, we really, really want to keep you. My question for you, Mr. Marceau, is why? He's been there for 5 years now. He's been very successful. He's not one of those call-ups that gets called up, holds a championship a day, and then just we don't see him again. Like, he's been there on the main roster for 6 years. Like you said, beat John Cena debut match. He's done pay-per-view main events. He's beaten Roman Reigns. He's beaten Seth Rollins. He was Universal Champion for a good stretch of time. Not the greatest reign, but he was champion for a while. He hasn't held a championship in almost 5 years, but still, he's held a lot of titles, Intercontinental, United States, whatever. They haven't done jack shit with him up until now. I mean, he's in the day one main event. I always thought he was only in there to take the pinfall loss, and he still could. But beyond that, though, he really hasn't been that important to the WWE storylines and consistently in a long time. So why would you? Why do you think, whether it be to keep him away from AEW or they just have plans for him, why do you think they are so strong and so adamant about keeping Kevin Owens on the WWE roster?
I honestly don't know.
I love Kevin. I just don't get it.
I love Kevin Owens, but I mean, I don't know. I really don't. I think he's good, but like you said, he's been there for a while. He's pretty much done everything. I don't think he's big box office. He has good fan. I mean, people like him, so like I just feel like there's plenty of people he can do that with. I mean, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know how to answer that question, really. I mean, besides the fans liking him, I mean, I think he's good. But like you said, he is older. He isn't like a big name. I really don't. I really don't have a good answer for you why they would want him. I mean, realistically, I think they'd rather have Braun back, honestly. I think that he's... Like, if they got rid of Kevin Owens, I don't think they'd really, like, miss his spot. I think lately you've seen they have been really missing, like, a giant, and don't tell me about Omos, because he's not good. So, honestly, I feel like they probably miss Braun more, and I think Braun was, like... It's weird, because Braun has always... Even if it wasn't, like, amazing booking, he was at least, like, in their fucking plans of doing something.
Yeah.
Owens has been, like, kind of on and off, on and off, on and off. So, I really don't know. I mean, like I said, I think Braun has a better chance of being big time. I really don't know. I can't give you a good answer because I don't really know why they'd want him.
I'm surprised that it just maybe anything changes with this company. Their mindset changes, their hiring policy changes from month to month, let alone day to day. I don't know. I just feel like with a guy, they talk about the youth movement. He's not young. He's 37 years old. Listen, I'm happy that he's making a lot of money. I want people who I'm a fan of in WWE. I don't want everyone to leave. I mean, I think it's nice that I just want him to be used well is the thing. Do you think this, I mean, we mentioned it before, but do you think this changes anything? I mean, maybe now that they know he's locked in, they might actually do something with him. But the thing I would say in argument of that is that they knew he was locked in 2 years ago, and they didn't do anything with him then. I mean, he beat Shane McMahon a couple times. He was the hottest thing on SmackDown, and then they did nothing. I mean, he beat Rollins at WrestleMania last year. He was super hot coming out of that. No fans, and I know COVID stuff, and he didn't want to be there for that, and I totally understand that. But it's not like he faced Roman for the championship, and he's had a lot of success, and it's not like he's done absolutely nothing. But he hasn't really won anything of importance in a long time, so the consistency with Kevin Owens is just weird to me as far as how the company views him. I don't think they've ever really seen him as a top-tier star. Even the Cena stuff was a great way of introducing him, but beyond that, they never really saw him at that level. As soon as they saw Brock throwing around this guy, I think it was like the Taker and Brock brawl. It was like right after Owens debuted. It was after he lost the Cena a time or two. And they had people breaking up the brawl, and Owens was out there as one of those losers alongside Heath Slater and fucking No Way Jose or whoever it was at that point. I knew at that point, okay, they just don't see him as being like top tier material. And he was world champion for a while, but again, he was never really the focal point, so.
So I have a question for you. You're saying that they don't see him as top tier. Do you think he could have been top tier?
Yes, I honestly do if they pushed him at that level. I feel like especially, he's a better heel than a babyface, but even as a babyface, dude, I mean, we've been to the shows, he gets huge reactions. He's one of those guys, not quite like Jeff Hardy, but close, or even if he's booked like an absolute loser, and we know this guy has not won a match by pinfall in fucking 4 months as Kevin Owens. I mean, he's won a couple matches by countout, and he's fighting for the title of the pay-per-view, I get that, but he hasn't won in forever. He's a loser right now, it feels like, from a booking standpoint. But he still gets great reactions. So I think he could. I'm not saying he could have been the next John Cena. I think personally that he could have been in the Rollins category of someone who had a lot of success in the independent scene. And he can't do what Rollins can do in the ring, but he could talk far better than Rollins can. And to me, he feels like a star. But what do you think?
I mean, I think where he has gone is probably to them and what I would see as like his height, I guess his peak.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like a good one-off or a couple-time champion, but like as the guy, especially for WWE, I mean, not that like, I mean, I'm not no fucking musclehead, but like he just isn't their guy. I don't know. I just don't like. He's not the muscle guy, and he's not like in shape. Like he's not in shape. So like, I think he's good. I love him, and like I said, I'm not like no Tiny Tim either. But like for WWE, I feel like you see like the jacked up people, or like like I said, it's like they want like the superhero, and he ain't that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like even Rollins, like yeah, he's not the biggest guy ever, but like he's like kind of like that villainy. He's like a superhero villain, basically. Like he's still athletic enough and looks the part that like you got like Owens. I love Owens, but like he doesn't scream WWE. Like Braun, I'll go back to like he screams WWE.
Yeah,
To this day, don't know why they got rid of him because I feel like he's like that big superhero that like they like always pushed him. So to this day, like I still don't get that, but like I see him being more of like a WWE guy than Owens, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I think I would probably put Owens at the level of a guy like AJ Styles. I'm not, again, obviously AJ looks better as far as being in ring shape, and he could do more in the ring than Owens can.
No, that's a good comparison.
I would put him at that level. AJ is a guy, to me, there is probably 4 or 5 people I would say in this company that are bulletproof as far as it doesn't matter where you put them on the card. They still feel like a top-tier star. AJ I could buy even for all the dumb shit that he's done with Omos recently. I like Omos, but like we're done with this. Can we move on? He's still, to me, he could be WWE champion tomorrow. I can't see that with Kevin. I mean, I told you over text, like, I guess I could see a scenario where he wins a day one now that they know he's locked in, just to shock people maybe. I mean, why the fuck not at this point? But AJ's a guy where even though he hasn't been WWE champion in 3 years, for whatever reason, they booked him like a star. Like, he, to me, was what Owens could have been. Owens, I mean, I could probably name 10 other people that should have been on that same level as AJ. AJ, for some reason, broke through as he should have. The guy's amazing, but I would say AJ's bulletproof, Roman and Rollins for different reasons, but AJ's a guy that broke through that ceiling. Owens never did. I feel like he could have been on AJ's level had they given him the AJ push. And they did, for a month or two when he beat Cena, but there was never any follow-up. There was the problem. So that's the category that I would put him in had they pushed him a little bit better than they did.
No, I agree. I think he could be on like Rollins AJ level.
I think currently, instead of being on the AJ level, he's in the Nakamura level where he's had a lot of success and he's really over. But he's like mid-card, upper mid-card. That's the height of which they see him in, I think.
Yeah, I agree.